Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review. West Ham United 2, Everton 1 yesterday afternoon at the London Stadium. As you can tell, my throat is extremely sore. It wasn't actually that bad last night when I come in and done the instant match reaction and the player rating. So obviously overnight, the constant screaming and shouting and, probably the bottle of rosé wine that I consumed didn't help either. But it's come back to catch me. So if I sound a bit croaky, if I sound a little bit, different than what I usually sound, it's because my throat is in absolute bits. I don't think I've said more than about 10 words today in work because I was in only with my sister and we were both busy. So this should be interesting because as I said, I haven't really spoken today and my throat, as you can tell, is in absolute bits. But another game of football lost. Another game of football, in which Everton have taken nothing out of. Albeit I've slept on the performance, I've slept on the result, I've slept on the game. I've watched the highlights, I've watched the replays, I've caught myself back up with it because, as I said yesterday in the instant match reaction, I spent the entirety of the journey home from the London Stadium trying to forget about the results so I could actually try and enjoy myself rather than constantly being reminded of Michael Keane being sent off and Everton losing another game through our own stupid mistakes. But I've reminded myself of the game a little bit more today, watched the highlights and stuff, and look, I understand why people are taking a positive look at it. I understand why there's a lot of Evertonians that are trying to look for the positives out of the performance and trying to pinpoint what was good about it as opposed to what was bad about it, because ultimately the situation that we're in at the moment, if there are positives to be taken, then maybe it is important to highlight them more so than the negatives, so we can try and give any sort of motivation and momentum to the players as possible. Maybe the message from the manager should be focus on what you did well rather than focus on what you didn't do well and then go and apply what you did well to Wednesday night against Burnley, which is now an absolutely crucial game of football. I said yesterday it's a must not lose game. I do think it's a must win. I absolutely do think it's a must win, but if we take a point there, we could very much still stay up on the basis of taking a point, because as I said yesterday in the instant match reaction, I don't think Everton will stay in the Premier League this season on the basis of that. Everton have gone on a run of 5-6 games, winning and or not dropping a point, or Everton have all of a sudden, turned out to be fantastic in the last few games of the season, or there's a player that's turned out to be absolutely unbelievable who's broken through a bit like Kevin Campbell did, 20 odd years ago. I don't think that is going to be the situation. I think if Everton is to stay in the Premier League this season, it will be on the basis that Watford and Burnley can't pick themselves up and they can't go on a good run of form, and ultimately they finish below us on the basis that they aren't very good either. I don't think it's going to be a case of Everton turning up and actually improving, because I just don't see it. I don't see it in the performances, I don't see it in the results, I don't see it in the attitude, I don't see it in the application of the players. So Wednesday for me is an absolute must not lose. It's a must win in the sense that every game is a must win at the moment, but if we lose that one, then I think that a lot of Evertonians will concede that might be the end of it then, given that might give Burnley a little bit of confidence, and also given it'll give Burnley an extra 3 points, which is 3 points closer than they are to us. I think that'll leave them 2 points behind, and whilst we've got 600 games in hand, which people keep telling me about, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because if we're going to lose every game in hand, then it's pointless. But as I said, I understand why people were looking at the positives out of the game. I understand why people were looking at, the fact that we started relatively well and we stayed in the game for the opening half an hour. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say we were the better team. I think we were the more advanced team. I think we were progressing more further up the pitch. I think we were looking more of a threat, but it wasn't to the stage. It wasn't like Crystal Palace. And this is what's interesting. I said yesterday that it was a better performance than Crystal Palace, but it doesn't mean anything because performances at the moment are nonsense. I don't give a shit if we put in an absolutely dreadful performance. If we get a result, I'd rather that than put in an unbelievable performance and not get a result. But, it's interesting at the different points of view and the different ways of thinking when you think of football games and how football games pan out. And I sat here yesterday and said, it was a better performance than Palace, and I think it was a better performance than Crystal Palace in the sense of that we absolutely fell to bits against Crystal Palace, and in that second half there was absolutely no fight whatsoever, whereas I felt yesterday, even when we went 2-0 down until the sending off, there was a little bit of fight, there was a little bit of aggression, there was a little bit of intensity. But I don't think the first 15, 20 minutes last night or yesterday afternoon was as good as what the first 15, 20 minutes was against Crystal Palace. I think we were much more attacking against Crystal Palace. I think we looked much more of a threat. And I think Crystal Palace looked very, very against the ropes in that game. And I think they were very worried. And, you know, in that game, we went and conceded an absolutely silly goal and then it all went out the window. In this one, it was a bit different. As I said, we were still in the game. West Ham weren't really bringing anything. It's interesting. I've read a lot of comments from West Ham fans over the last 24 hours or so on the videos and on Twitter and stuff, and they all agreed that they weren't particularly very good. You know, I said yesterday, I think in the instant match reaction, that although West Ham are a good team, that's twice we've played them now. Twice they've taken, 3 points away, 6 points away from us this season, and twice they've not really been very good in doing that, and I don't think they were yesterday. And whilst Everton, we're well in the game in that opening 20, 25, 30 minutes. We weren't particularly creating many chances either. We weren't particularly creating many opportunities. We had the odd one. Richarlison fired one over the bar, of course, which was just an absolute disaster. When you get one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I get that it's bouncing. I get that it's on his weaker foot. I get that it's a difficult, chance to take. But, it's 3 goals for Richarlison this season, which just simply isn't good enough. And when you're in a relegation battle, as much as I love Richarlison, as much as I think he works hard, he battles, his desire's there, his fight's there, I just think 3 goals from a player who's played in the front 3 all season and for parts of the season as a centre-forward in various different formations, it's just not good enough. And again, yesterday he missed the chance that, top strikers in the league, you would put money on them scoring, even though it was a bit more difficult than a generic one-on-one. You still would have expected Richarlison to have at least hit the target from there, and if he would have hit the target, ironically, it would have gone in the back of the net, and he didn't. But we weren't particularly a massive threat in that opening half an hour. Neither West Ham. They got in behind our defence a couple of times because our defensive position was and is just absolutely all over the place. Neither fullback can defend. And I know Vitaly Mykolenko is new to the league, and I know that he's young and he's got a lot going on at the moment, and I'm not saying that he never will be able to defend, because we've seen plenty of defenders at this football club over the years turn up, sign for the club, not be very good, and then after a couple of years of settling in and working hard, they actually turn out to be pretty decent defenders. But at the moment, and we can only judge on what we're seeing at the moment, and I can only judge on what I saw yesterday because it's the review to that game, he can't defend. His positioning is woeful, but John Joe Kenny's is exactly the same. And as I said yesterday, I'll say it again, John Joe Kenny shouldn't be anywhere near an Everton starting 11. In fact, he shouldn't be anywhere near an Everton squad. 2 years ago, he was deemed not good enough to be anywhere near the squad. Now, apparently, when we're in a relegation battle and we need as much character and as much quality as possible, he's all of a sudden deemed not only to be good enough to be in and around the squad, but to also be starting games of football consistently for Everton, which is just absolutely utter nonsense. The centre-backs, again, we're leaving far too much space. Ben Godfrey gets away with it because he's got the pace to be able to catch up with attackers if they get in behind him. Michael Keane doesn't get away with it because he hasn't got that pace, which leads him to pick up yellow cards, which ultimately leads him to get sent off, i.e. yesterday. Frank Lampard obviously started with a 3 in midfield, with Mason Holgate being the centre of that midfield 3, Alex Iwobi one side of him, and Abdoulaye Doucouré the other. Donny van de Beek would have typically started in that position, but he got injured in the warm-up, which is, again, just what you need, isn't it? You're fighting relegation, you're going away to a team that are very, very good at home, that are in a quarter-final of a European competition, that are managed really well, really solid structurally, very tight, difficult to beat, and, one of your most important players, midfielders, gets injured in the warm-up to a game, and you've got to replace him with a centre-back who isn't a very good centre-back in an unnatural position for him, albeit I actually think Mason Holgate was okay in the centre of midfield yesterday. And then, as I said, we started with the front 3 of Gray, Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who should have been good enough to create more than what they did ultimately, and look, we can sit here all we like and say, well, Dom didn't have the service, or Richarlison didn't have the service, etc. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed a one-on-one opportunity in which he hit the bar. Yes, again, difficult angle, but got to be doing better. Richarlison missed 1 or 2 chances that, again, with difficult angles, but got to be doing better. Demarai Gray was absolutely dreadful yesterday. Absolutely dreadful. So, again, I understand why people are saying, we need to look at the positives and this, that and the other, but it's difficult to do that when you're in a relegation battle in April and you've just lost another game, isn't it, really? I mean, if we had 15 shots on target and Fabianski had the game of his life, or, you know, we hit the bar, we hit the post, we would deny the penalty, this, that and the other, you'd sit here and say, do you know what, there's positives to take out of that. How at Manchester City, we sat here and said, do you know what, we were unlucky there, we had a biased, corrupt, nonsense scum decision go against us. We created chances. The goalkeeper made a couple of good saves. We constantly battled. We constantly fought. There's positives to be taken out of that. But I didn't see that yesterday, and I was there in the stadium. I saw a relatively decent half an hour, and by relatively decent I meant West Ham didn't really bring anything. We didn't really bring anything either. It was a very boring first half of football. We give away a silly free kick on the edge of the box, which is what we do, don't we? We give away stupid free kicks. That's Everton. Okay, Cresswell, steps up and. I've watched it again. Could Jordan Pickford maybe be positioned a little bit towards his left? Maybe, but the ability and the technique it takes for Alan Cresswell to do what he did was, sometimes that happens in football, and sometimes you've just got to hold your hands up and say, do you know what? It is what it is. And it was always at that point going to be about the reaction. My first initial thought when I was stood in that stand after Alan Cresswell buried that free kick was, this game's over. And that isn't because I'm a negative Evertonian or I'm a pessimistic or what. That's because more often than, in fact, not even more often than not, every single time we go a goal down, be it away from home or at home, but certainly more often away from home, the players fold and they give up and they throw the towel in, and they all of a sudden don't become, they're all of a sudden not interested in getting anything out of the game. Now, that wasn't the case yesterday, and again, I think that's another reason why fans are looking at it and saying, well, we can take positives from it, and it wasn't the worst performance, because we did show a reaction. We continued to battle, we continued to fight, we continued to try and move the ball around. Obviously we got back into the game in the second half, and then we went another goal down literally 2 minutes later from another mistake. But it just, again, it's so difficult to talk about Everton. It's so difficult to watch Everton at the moment because, not only have we got a squad full of players that, as I said yesterday in the instant match reaction, I just don't think any of them have got a footballing brain to share out between them, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. We can blame Frank Lampard all we like, and that's fine. I think Frank Lampard is wrong to have not given Nathan Patterson more time on the pitch. Ultimately, okay, he was injured yesterday, and that's fine, and I understand that, and I understand people will say, hang on, he was injured. Yeah, he was injured, he's hurt himself. That can't be helped, but the reality is, this was the first game Nathan Patterson was going to start in the Premier League for Everton. John Joe Kenny has proven time and time again over the last 2 months, he's fucking garbage. Nathan Patterson has been available, he's been fit, he's been ready, he's been on the bench, or he's not been in the squad, or for whatever reason he hasn't played, whilst John Joe Kenny and Seamus Coleman have proven themselves to be utter fucking dross week in, week out. Now, okay, he was going to start this game, which is fine, and he was injured, and that's not necessarily the manager's fault, but had he have started the previous 4 or 5, in which he should have done, over 2 defenders who aren't very good at doing what they should be doing and don't do what they should be doing, then maybe we'd have gotten a different result against Wolves, or a different result against Palace or somebody else, and maybe we'd be in a better situation than what we're in now. The centre halves, I get it, hamstrung, Yerry Mina's not fit, not much more you can do about it. I get this, the starting Mikalenko. I don't think he was very good yesterday. But again, he needs to get the game time and the experience. Maybe now is not the time. I don't think we should be getting on his back. I don't think we should be writing him off, as I've seen some people do, because of course people will do that, because that's what being a football fan is, isn't it? It's writing players off after not seeing them for very long. I don't think we should be writing him off, but the reality is he wasn't very good. And when we're in a situation like this, I just think having it goes back. This is a much deeper issue. I've seen the Dominic Calvert-Lewin thing get brought up. It's being brought up in the comments. Wonderlust says GQ's release of that fashion article was woefully mistimed. I'm not asked what DCL wears, for better or worse. I don't think he asked for today to be the day to be released. I've seen a lot of people making this out, and I want to touch on it because I know it'll get mentioned in the comments, and I know people will ask and stuff. But the British GQ have released an article today of Dominic Calvert-Lewin doing an interview talking about his his clothing choices and his personality as a person and this, that and the other. And if you read through it, it's great. Nothing wrong with it. He's talking about how he wants to be an individual and he wants to be, sort of an inspiration for people that want to be themselves and stuff like that. Nothing wrong with it. Now, other than the timing of when it was released. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't asked for that article to be released today. That interview will have been done weeks ago, maybe even months ago, from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and it will have taken up half an hour of his day, maybe an hour, and I can guarantee you that half an hour to an hour will not have been during the time that he should be training or working on his footballing ability. Now, as much as we may want to think as football fans, and this isn't just an Everton thing, this is a football thing, as much as we may want to think as football fans that players spend every single minute of the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, thinking about football and thinking about how to improve in this, that and the other, they don't. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin spends his spare time talking about his fashion and how he wants to be an inspiration and this, that and the other. Fine. Mason Holgate doesn't do that, but he's not sitting at home every single minute thinking, how do I fix that mistake? How do we do that? He's doing something else. Same with Seamus Coleman, same with Richarlison, same with Jordan Pickford. It's actually interesting this because I was watching a YouTube video yesterday of Ben Foster doing a football challenge with the Sidemen. And he's in there and he's laughing and he's joking and he's having a this and he's having a laugh with them and he's saving some shots and this, that and the other. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I remember watching it thinking, can you imagine if Jordan Pickford was doing that? Bearing in mind Watford are in a worse situation than Everton, not much worse, but a worse situation than Everton. They're in the relegation battle, they're trying to get themselves out of it. They're playing better than I think Everton are, but they're still not getting the results, they're still not getting the wins. Can you imagine if Jordan Pickford was doing videos with YouTubers laughing and smiling and this, that and the other? And that's not to say that Ben Foster was wrong or right for doing that. Well, that's just to say that the Watford fans would not have been happy with that because of the situation that Watford are in, regardless of whether Ben Foster was doing it in his spare time or, whether or not it would, these footballers do these things off camera. But because it's on camera, because Dominic Calvert-Lewin's article is on Twitter, it causes a discussion and it causes a stir. What I would say on it is Dominic Calvert-Lewin sitting down with GQ, taking a few pictures and having a half an hour interview is not the reason as to why Everton are in the position that we are. And it's not the reason as to why these players haven't got a brain when it comes to playing football. It's not the reason why they throw the towel out when we go 1-0 down. It's not the reason why the manager makes poor decisions or why the players can't seem to create chances and score goals and defend. It was poorly timed and it wouldn't have come from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It will have either been released randomly at just a bad time, or it will have been scheduled in for today, regardless of what the result was yesterday. And I don't think there's much more we can sit and say about it, to be honest with you. It doesn't help because it creates this mad illusion that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has gone out today, forgot about yesterday's result, isn't asked about it, and gone and done an interview about him, the way he dresses and stuff, which isn't the case. And the interview, there's nothing wrong with it. When you read it, it's great. He ultimately is an... he's wanting to be a sort of as I said, an inspiration to people that want to be themselves. It's fine, it's absolutely fantastic. And if Everton were winning games and in a more stable position, there wouldn't be one Evertonian on the planet who'd have a fucking problem with it. But because of where we are, there is. But it would have been done a while ago, and it's just incredibly poor timing by GQ to release it today. But again, it adds to the fire pot of fume for Evertonians, doesn't it? It's another thing that people can look at and have a go at. As soon as I seen it today, my instant feeling was, for fuck's sake. I think that's what I said to myself in work, for fuck's sake. And that wasn't because I was saying for fuck's sake because, because he'd done an interview about what he wears or whatever, or I wasn't saying for fuck's sake because I didn't like them. I was saying for fuck's sake because I knew the reaction that would get on social media. I knew how poorly timed it was. And again, it's just another thing on top of to create fume in which we don't need. One Leeds fan channel says, "You think Leeds will stay up? Cam, I'd be stunned if Everton go down. To be fair, seems an obvious thing to say, but too much quality and enough shown in the last couple of Premier League games." I think Leeds will be okay. I think it will be between. I think Norwich are gone. I think it will be between Burnley, Watford, and Everton for the other two places. To be honest with you, I do. But yeah, again, yesterday, as I said, we were slightly better, but ultimately we still lost another game. Was the team Frank Lampard picked the right team? Look at the bench. Who could the else have put on? It's very easy to go, well, why isn't Dobbin getting a game, or why isn't Branthwaite getting a game, this, that and the other. But, maybe maybe it is the time for the likes of Dobbin and Branthwaite to be given chances, because they were given a chance against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and that was the last away game we took anything from. And Branthwaite scored in it, and Dobbin was very, very impressive and caused Thiago Silva, who is one of the best centre-halves to ever play the game, problems for the opening 45 minutes. So maybe these young players should be given that opportunity, but that was under a different manager. Frank Lampard might be seeing something different in training as to suggest that they're not ready to be given an opportunity. But what we do know for absolute certain is the players that are getting chances week in, week out are letting us down week in, week out and aren't good enough. And as I said, for me, one thing I really, really noticed yesterday was just the lack of brains of these players. And that might be disrespectful, and that might be something people might say, oh, you can't say that. But, I posted a tweet earlier on today of the corner situation. I think I mentioned it in the instant match reaction yesterday. We're 2-1 down. We get a corner in front of our home fans with 15 minutes to go in the game. Damari Gray plays it short to Alex Iwobi, who is back his facing goal and has got 3 players around him. He plays it straight back to Damari Gray, who's offside, and West Ham have got a free kick. Now, that was a corner. We had tall centre-halves on the pitch that can head the ball. We scored our goal from a corner. Okay, not directly, but the corner was put in, it was bouncing around, and Mason Holgate got in the end of it. And with 15 minutes to go, we've chosen to play a short corner and then give it to a player who stood in an offside position. And I've seen a lot of people go, that's Iwobi's fault, that's Iwobi's fault. It's equally Damari Gray's fault for A, playing a fucking short corner instead of getting it in the box when we need a goal, and B, for playing it to Iwobi when his back's facing goal and he can't see the offside line. Should Iwobi have passed it back to him? No, he probably should have thought, actually, do you know what, he might be offside here. But should Damari Gray be standing in an offside position when he knows full well Alex Iwobi can't see the offside line because he's facing the other way? Very quick to jump on Iwobi's back when that video was going around, oh, he's this, he's that, he's the other. Damari Gray was equally, if not more, at fault for it. But again, it doesn't matter who was at fault, it doesn't matter whether it was Gray's or Iwobi's fault. It just shows the lack of intelligence of these players. To think that even playing a short corner in that situation was the right decision when we're desperately needing a goal and there's 15 minutes to go in a game. And our goal come from a corner. Their second goal, Michael Keane playing it into Iwobi again when he's got 3 men around him. And yes, it's a lazy touch. It's a poor touch, and he's at fault for the goal, in my opinion. But then again, it's one ball into Antonio. Ben Godfrey's pace doesn't get him out of it this time. It goes across the box. Jared Bowen may as well be still having a fucking cup of tea. He stood on his own and he thinks it past Pickford. It's so easy. We've just equalised and gotten back into the game. We're desperate for a point. We're desperate for to get something out of the game. Within minutes of equalising and doing all of that hard work to equalise, we go 2-1 down in the easiest goal that Jared Bowen and West Ham will score all season, because it's gifted to them. And this is why I can't sit here and confidently say, oh, Everton will be alright, we'll be safe, we'll be sound this season, we'll stay up, we won't go down. Because we're not only conceding more goals than what we're scoring, which ultimately means we're losing every footballing game in which we play, but the goals we're conceding, as I said, it's not like we had 38 shots on goal yesterday, hit the bar, hit the post, Fabianski had a worldy game, and they scored a 45-yard screamer to win it, and we're sitting here saying, do you know what, there's positives. We didn't create much other than one real one-on-one for Richarlison and one for Dom, in which the pair of them missed, which isn't good enough. We scored a goal that was deflected, which is fine, it went in, great, happy days. But then the goals we conceded are from our own errors. The Cresswell one, I'm happy to put to one side because it's a fantastic free kick. The Antonio, the Bowen one, is just, it's a mistake that will be made by a team that will be relegated. You can afford to make one of them mistakes a season if you're in a comfortable position, or if you're in a position where you're all right and there's nothing riding on it. When you're in a relegation battle and you're making them mistakes, those mistakes are what will take you down. Because those mistakes leads to goals leads to games being lost, and losses leads to relegation. And ultimately, it baffles me. It baffles me how thick this squad of players is. It really, really does. There doesn't seem to be one of them who understands how to grab a game by the scruff of the neck and manage a game. There's absolutely no game management within this team. And it's baffling because we've had Champions League winning managers over the last 24 months, and there was no game management then. We've now got a manager who, okay, maybe hasn't had the most illustrious managerial career, but as a player was a Champions League winner, a Premier League winner. His game, he always spoke about the game management of managers that he worked under. We've got no game management. We don't understand when to just get our foot on the ball and slow the game down. We don't understand it. It's just utter nonsense. You know, how many times is that now where we've scored an important goal to get back in a game and then we've instantly conceded minutes later, or something's gone wrong minutes later instantly? As Kevin says, there's no leaders. There's no leadership. There's nobody that takes it. There's nobody that riles the teammates. On and Matty, Ned, made a really, really good point to me after that corner, because I got a little bit angry and I think I hit the chair in front of me after it. But Matty turned around to me and said, notice how not one of those Everton players in the box went over to Gray Orowobi and screamed, what the fuck are you doing? I'm standing in the box here, you're playing a short corner and now they've got a free kick. They all just dropped their head as if to say, oh, well, there's another one. When we concede the second, everyone just dropped their head going, oh, well, there's another one. No one's screaming going, what the fuck's that? What the fuck is that? No one's screaming when we take that corner. There's no leader going over and going, what are you doing? Get the ball in the box. Next time you've got that opportunity, get the ball in the box. No one. Every one of the players just dropped their head and conceded that that's what we are. That's how bad we are. That's how thick we are. As I said, the game management of this Everton team is just abysmal. Absolutely. It's worrying because they don't understand how to react in games of football, how to react to going 1-0 up, how to react to getting a goal back and getting an equaliser, how to react to going 1-0 down or 2-1 down. They don't understand how to react to situations in football. These are Premier League footballers, by the way. 60, 70, 80,000 pounds a week. And yes, I will mention their wage, because for 60, 70, 80,000 pounds a week, they should understand at the very, very basic how to A, work hard every time you're on the pitch, and B, fucking manage a game of footy. You know, whether you're a great player or not, whether you're fast, whether you're skillful, whether you're brilliant at defending, whether you're brilliant at scoring goals, whatever, you should know as a bare minimum, you know, how to manage situations. We've just gone 1-0 up here, so keep it tight. Don't give anything silly away. Don't make any mistake. And maybe they do understand that, but maybe that is an added pressure in itself, and maybe they just can't deal with pressure. But whatever it is, it's just... It's the recipe of a team that will go down, and that's what worries me. That's what really, really worries me. When I watch Everton, albeit there was positives yesterday and it was a better performance than Palace and better performance than Spurs, I get all of that, but let's be honest, it couldn't have been much fucking worse than Palace or Spurs. But I just watch us and it's everything. It's not just the results, it's not just the performance as a whole, it's that corner, it's the second goal we conceded, it's the reaction of the players, it's the lack of game management. It's all just a recipe for a team that should go down. And do you know, if we are relegated this season, and there's 60 odd people watching, by the way, and if you are enjoying, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. But is there anybody watching that can honestly say from the bottom of their heart that if we're relegated this season, you will feel like it is unjust, or that it is sort of, you know, undeserved, or that, you know, you're surprised by it? Because I just watch Everton and think, how the fuck have we stayed in the Premier League for as long as we have? The gross mismanagement at the top of the club is one thing, and that's a different conversation for a different video that will come at some point in the future when we stop playing 2 games a week. I probably could have done it during the international break, but I had some stuff going on, so I just needed a break from it. But on the pitch, we're just a woeful football team. And I just don't see a way out of it. As I said, I honestly think that for us to stay in the Premier League. And I'm not saying we'll definitely go down, and I'm not saying it's done, and I'm not saying it's over, but I do think that we survive on the basis that Watford and Burnley are worse than we are. I don't think we survive. I just don't see this team putting in a good run of results. We're not showing the right message. If Watford turn up whenever their next game is and whoever their next game is against and win, then I'll look and go, well, when they played Liverpool, they were unlucky. They should have had the penalty. They worked hard. They had a couple of one-on-ones in the opening 15 minutes. They absolutely were all over Liverpool in the opening 20 minutes. They've done relatively well. The game before, they're holding their own, they're battling, they're working hard. So if they win the next game or the next 2 games, you're looking going, well, over the last 2 games, although they haven't got the results, there's been positives there, there's been improvements there. You watch Everton, and we're literally sitting here, you know, and as a fan base saying, oh, there was improvements yesterday because we worked a little bit hard for 10 minutes after we conceded, or we didn't concede for half an hour. Are they really the positives we're looking at? Are they really the things we're grasping onto as positives of this football club? I just watch Everton and think, I don't see us winning a game of football comfortably. I don't see the next team that we beat comfortably, or beat at all, to be honest with you. There's just nothing, and that's what really, really worries me. And yes, yesterday was a bit better than what we have been. I get that. But it means nothing, does it? It means nothing. Because are we going to go and put that into play on Wednesday against Burnley? Are we? If I'm at the stadium, I'll be screaming, shouting my head off. I'll be supporting, as everyone will be. But I just can't sit here and say, yeah, well, I can take a lot from there and we're going to implement that to Burnley. Because even had we have won 3-0 and it been brilliant yesterday, I still couldn't sit here from the bottom of my heart and think, yeah, we'll go and do that again on Wednesday. When was the last time we won 2 games in a row? When was the last time we played well 2 games in a row? It baffles me. And as I said, the first half was relatively good. In the sense of that we stayed in the game. The first half an hour, sorry. We had a couple of chances. So the type of chances that you look at and think, they should be goals. You know, in a relegation battle, they need to be hitting the back of the net. Louis says, Cam, if you were offered right now, would you take a draw at Burnley? Absolutely. I'd take a draw at Burnley, absolutely. We're not in a position to be saying, no, I'd absolutely, I'd snatch your hand off for a draw at Burnley. Because not only is that an extra point for Everton, but it's 2 less for Burnley, isn't it? Really. As I've said, tomorrow is a must-win for a lot of people. For me, just don't fucking lose it. Not tomorrow, but Wednesday. Just don't lose it. Because if we lose it, we're in deep shit. Deep shit. But yeah, you know, we did. We did start the game well. We did stay in it. We did battle. We were sort of working hard, and the structure was there. And I actually think the Mason Holgate playing in midfield worked. It certainly worked more than it does when he plays as a centre back. But it comes to nothing at the end, didn't it? And that's the worry. Well, we'll get into the second half in just a moment, but let's get into the live comments before we do that. If you are enjoying and you're watching live, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you watch as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and leave a like as well. Why not? Jackie Boy says, thanks for taking a photo with me yesterday, Cam. No worries, my mate. Thank you very much for coming over and asking for one as well. I really appreciate it. David says, good evening, David. Good day, says Wonderhurst. And Everton fan talks about says, hi Cam, hi. David says, guessing pizza. Which pizza? What are we guessing pizza for? If you're guessing me tea, I'm not having pizza, no. I'm having a chorizo bake of some form, which I'm looking forward to. London, a whole city of bogey teams, apparently. Yeah, well, every city's a city of bogey teams, isn't it? It's not just London. It's every city for Everton at the moment. Even in Blues, including fucking Liverpool. Whammy says, even in Blues, even in Mates. Wonderlaw says, for those familiar with Three Kingdoms, Burnley is our Battle of Red Cliffs. I'm not, mate, but I'll take your word for it. David says, why did Keane get awarded as the captain? I don't know. Again, I don't know. The armband is a shambles. It's an absolute shambles. And I've seen a few people talk about this recently, non-related to Everton. I think Roy Keane talked about it on the overlap about Maguire and Manchester United, but specifically in discussion with Everton, the armband is a nonsense. It's pointless. You may as well not give fucking anyone the armband, because A, it gets passed around like a fucking, I don't know, like a cigarette on a night out, and And B, it's given to people that have got no leadership skills, no leadership qualities, and are shite themselves. And that includes Seamus Coleman, who might be a good representative, might be a good, role model, and might be a good representative of the football club off the pitch and stuff like that, and that's fine. And when things are going well, he's screaming and shouting and this, that, and the other, and he's celebrating, and that's all well and good. But for me, the true showing of a real leader is how you react and how you motivate your teammates and the people around you when things aren't going well. It's all well and good being a boss leader and screaming and hugging players when you're winning and when you're losing, and when you're winning games and you're battling and something like that. But a true showing of a leader is how you act, how you react, and how you motivate your teammates to get something out of them when things aren't going well. And we haven't got one player in the team that can do that, including Seamus Coleman. So the armband is a fucking nonsense. You may as well just get rid of it. You may as well give it to me. I'll wear it in the stand and just pass it round the players. You may as well give it to fucking Jimmy Martin, the kit man. You may as well give it to fucking Mike Dean, the fourth official, because it's fucking pointless. Michael Keane was dropped 2 weeks ago for not being good enough, and now he comes back in and he's got the armband. Why? Because Seamus Coleman isn't available. Is he our vice captain, Michael Keane, now? Why not Jordan Pickford, who's been a consistent performer for a long time now? I don't know. Mason Allgates wore the armband this season. Michael Keane. Just, yeah. It's another sort of it's another side quest, which is just absolutely, it screams the problems with Everton Football Club. It absolutely screams the problems with Everton Football Club. There's no leader. There's no nothing. And as I said, Michael Keane having the armband yesterday just adds more pressure to his game for me. He mightn't admit that. He mightn't say it does, but it does. Let's be honest, it does. And if anything proves that, it's the fact that he had the armband and he got sent off for 2 stupid challenges that he didn't need to make. Or well, certainly the second one when he was on a yellow card. And who got the armband when Michael Keane went off? Was it Mason Allgate? Again, why? Who are we going to give it to next? John Joe Kenny, because he's a Scouser? Fucking do me a favour. As I said, don't even bother. Just don't bother giving it to anyone. Just say to the Premier League, none of them deserve it. None of them are captains. None of them are leaders. So we're just going to give it to fucking, I don't know. As I said, Jimmy Martin on the bench because he's boss at washing the kits. And he's a sound fella. Because that's all it is, isn't it? What determines who gets the captain's armband? What is... I'd really, really love to sit down and delve into Frank Lampard. And this isn't... Again, I'm not blaming Frank Lampard for this because Carlo Ancelotti did it, Rafa Benitez did it. You've got to pick someone. And as I said, there's not one of them in there that deserves it. Including the captain himself on the basis of leadership. There's not one of them in there that deserves it. So I'm not blaming Frank Lampard because he's got to choose somebody and somebody's got to take the armband. But I'd love to know how that decision is made. I really, really would. Is it made on the basis of who's the most experienced player? Who's played the longest? Which position do they play in? Would Michael Keane have got the armband if he was a centre forward or a goalkeeper? Would Jordan Pickford have the armband if he played outfield? I think he probably would, because he's the only one that seems to scream and shout and he's the only consistently decent performer. Is Anthony Gordon going to get it next because he works hard even though he's far too young for it, and again shouldn't be anywhere near the armband because he's not at that level yet. He's not at that stage in his career. But is he going to get it at some point soon because he works hard and he battles? Will Richarlison get it because he loves the club? But as I said, there's no one. There's no one there that when the going gets tough, picks other players up, drags other players forward and battles. We've got a team full of people that want everybody to lift them but won't do any lifting themselves. We've got a team full of people that'll happily give orders and say, well, you do that, you do this, but won't actually be at the front of it themselves, saying, well, I'm going to do it with you. Team full of gutless shithouses, effectively. But the captaincy is just a fucking nonsense for me. And absolutely, there's not one of them that deserves it. Not one of them. Maybe Jordan Pickford. But again, there's a reason why Jordan Pickford hasn't had it and doesn't have it, and I don't know what that reason is. As I said, I'd love to know what the thought process is of picking an Everton captain. Is it on the basis of where they play in the team? Is it on the basis of how many games they've played, their experience, their age? It might be their age. Frank Lampard might have just looked at their age and said, who's the oldest, most experienced head, even though Michael Keane plays like he's 13 and hasn't got a fucking clue how to play football. I just, again, it's nonsense. It's not, and I don't even pay attention to it anymore. I don't even pay attention to it because it doesn't matter who gets it. It's nonsense, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's nonsense. Yeah. Anyway, that was a little rant, wasn't it? Apologies about that one. Let's get back in the live comments. If you are enjoying, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Will says, hi Cam, I honestly think Decore makes us play worse. He never goes forward and he's scared to do anything and gives the ball away constantly. He's abysmal. People need to realise how bad he actually is. Incessant point. I've seen a couple of people say similar recently. Good work, Cam. Hope you're well, mate, says James. I'm not too bad. Other than a sore throat, I'm not too bad. Thanks, mate. And I guess he thought putting the armband on a keeper was weird. I don't know, mate. I don't know. But ultimately, as I said, I wouldn't give it to any of them. And it must just be a case of who's getting it this week. If Seamus Coleman isn't in the team, who's getting it this week? Because Michael Keane isn't the vice captain, is he? So, again, utter fucking shambles, mate. Rest in peace, Doc Cotton, says Sausage Man. Absolutely. It's a funny old game, says Wonderlust. It is. Will says the performance couldn't have been worse against Palace. Yes, Stephen Smith said, Cam, a Leeds fan has said we are the new Leeds from last time. What do you think? Wouldn't surprise me, mate. Wouldn't surprise me if we were the new Sunderland, Blackburn, Wigan, specifically Sunderland. But yeah, the way we're ran is abysmal. Every single person at that top of that club, from Bill Kenwright to Denise Barrett-Packentail to Farhad Mashiri, well, everybody bar the owner need bombing out and the owner needs to sell. It's as simple as that. The amount of free kicks we give in a dangerous places is unreal. Hernandez says we aren't the new Leeds because they aren't having trouble scoring a goal. I think he means the new Leeds of old. David says too many 50-50 chances missed or saved. Yeah. When you're in a relegation battle, you can't have them. They're missed or saved. It's as simple as that. James said, an easy passes we can't play down to the manager or fans. I'm not sure what's happening with them, but they need to sort it fast. Again, I just think we've got a team full of confidence-based players. I really, really do. I think they're awful. I don't actually think technically they're as bad as they're showing, but when I say they're an awful footballing team, I mean that the fact that they need, you know, and again, listen, it's a difficult one because every footballer needs confidence and every player needs that little bit of, you know, luck to do well. But the fact that this team need things to be going well for them to give everything and actually be able to do the basics of football in a sense of that, understanding when a teammate's offside or playing a short corner and instead of playing a long or etc. It's just nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. And you know, I just look at it and I just think, you know, how, you know, Carlo Ancelotti had this team, the majority of this team, albeit with a couple of extra players, and those players were the creators in the team, which is obviously not ironic, but he had effectively this team, this defence, this attack, you know, second in the league at Christmas last season. Now we're in a relegation battle in April. I just don't get it. I really, really don't get it. But it is what it is, I suppose. It is what it is. Let's get back into the game then. If you are enjoying, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. So we come out in the second half with 1-0 down. You know, you're thinking, can we show a bit of fight? Can we show a bit of determination? Can we show a bit of passion? You know, we went 1-0 down to a good free kick. Let's be honest, a good free kick. You know, should we have given away the ball, the free kick on the edge of the box? Absolutely not. But that's what we do. We give teams, we give players opportunities to score goals. And you know, it's no surprise that when a good set piece taker, somebody like Aaron Cresswell, steps up and puts one in the back of the net, that is absolutely no surprise. And then there was a little bit of a reaction, which was, again, I suppose, one of the one things that people are really, really taking from this yesterday was that whilst after, you know, against Tottenham and against Palace and various other teams this season, Wolves at Goodison as well, let's not forget that one. Well, let's absolutely forget it, but let's not forget it in the context of this situation. Whilst in them games we conceded and then our heads dropped and the game was practically over, in this one, there seemed like there was a bit more urgency. Now, I'm not going to go over the top about it because it wasn't like we override West Ham and we battered them and we had 15 chances and we were absolutely all over them. We weren't. We just looked a little bit more arsed yesterday than what we did. And that's how sad this has become, that we're trying to take positives, we're trying to take, good things off of the fact that a team were a little bit more arse yesterday than they have been in recent weeks. And that's just so sad that we're in this situation for me. So sad. But anyway, we show a bit of fight, we show a bit of determination. We get into, we get a corner in a good area, ball comes in, it's bouncing around the box. Mason Holgate gets on the end of it, strikes it well, to be fair, strikes it well. It takes a deflection, it does take a massive deflection. But it goes into the back of the net, and I couldn't care if it took 18 deflections. It goes into the back of the net. All of a sudden, we've gone from being 1-0 down, it's 1-1. The momentum naturally will switch, the atmosphere switch within the stadium, and we're back in the game. And at that point, I'm thinking, right, 11 men behind the ball now. I wouldn't have taken Dominic Calvert-Lewin off when the manager did. I think that was a wrong decision. I understand why he did it, but I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin, although he hasn't been particularly great recently, and although he wasn't a massive target man, yesterday, I think having a player like Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the pitch to be that sort of target man, even just somebody that you lump it forward to and get them to hold it in the corner flag, I think is important. And taking him off and replacing him with somebody that isn't a similar type of player than Anthony Gordon, albeit Anthony Gordon I think should have come on, but I think he should have come on for Demarai Gray because Demarai Gray was woeful yesterday. I just think it was a strange substitution. But you're thinking, right, again, this is where I'm talking about game management. Football is Premier League football. You learn this when you're 5-6 years old and you're playing in the park, or you're playing on a Sunday with your mates or a Saturday with your mates. You learn that you're most prone, that's the word I'm looking for, prone to concede 5 minutes, 10 minutes after scoring. So for that 5-10 minute spell after you've scored, keep it tight, don't do anything stupid, don't give any silly mistakes away, just keep it tight, keep it comfortable, and again, frustrate West Ham, because West Ham were always going to come out and give a bit of a reaction to conceding. And if we could have soaked that up for 10 or 15 minutes and then stuck 11 men behind the ball and made it really, really difficult for them, they will have got more and more frustrated, and they will have found less ways to try and get a win out of the game, i.e. what we did to Chelsea, and Chelsea had a better side than West Ham. So you're thinking, right, game management's here by the manager, by the players. Don't do anything silly for 10-15 minutes, keep it tight, and then just stick everyone behind the ball, come away with a point, which would have been a win. By the way, it would have been a 1-1 win yesterday. As cringy as it sounds and as silly as it sounds, that's a position that we're in. A point yesterday would have been like a win. I would have celebrated it like a win because it would have been that important. And in typical Everton fashion, as I was talking about before, as I mentioned, in the instant match reaction, these players have just got absolutely no game management skills. They're thick as fuck. They don't understand how to manage a game of football. And within 5 minutes of us getting back in the game and getting that goal, which we'd looked for almost an hour in the game, we didn't have much in the game. As I said, we'd had 2 chances beforehand, which were missed by the strikers. So it wasn't like we were creating all of these opportunities that you're sitting thinking, we'll go and get another 1 or 2 anyway, because we're creating so much. We weren't. So when we get that goal, you're thinking, right, that might be the only chance we get to score. We've scored, get everyone behind the ball, don't do anything silly. 5 minutes later, Michael Keane's got the ball. He's got Richarlison in about 33 miles worth of space. He plays it into Alex Iwobi, who's got his back facing the opposition goal. He plays a lazy pass, or a lazy touch. It's a lazy touch, isn't it? It rolls away from him. Antonio gets put through. Antonio beats Ben Godfrey for pace because he's 5 yards ahead of him. And he plays the ball across to Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen stood there effectively, as I said before, having a biscuit, having a cup of tea, on FaceTime to Danny Dyer, and he puts the ball in the back of the net. And all of a sudden, 5 minutes after getting back in the game, and that energy and that momentum and that switch of sort of play from West Ham being in control to all of a sudden Everton back into it, all of a sudden it's gone. It's like you could feel the feeling within the away end was like a balloon being popped. It was just instant. Oh. And all of a sudden we were back to where we were before we scored. Back to chasing a game. Back to trying to get an equaliser. Back to being a goal down. Within, why? Why was that? Because of an individual mistake or a couple of individual mistakes, and just absolute stupidity, lack of game management, lack of footballing IQ, lack of footballing brain, just complete and utter stupidity. I think Michael Keane's at fault for playing the ball into him in the first place. I think Iwobi's at fault for having a lazy touch, and I think, again, I think probably Mikalenko on that left hand side is at fault for not sacking Jared Bowen, although that may be a little bit harsh. But it doesn't matter who's at fault. It doesn't matter whether it was just Iwobi, whether it was Michael Keane. Again, the game management and the discipline of these players is just absolute wank. It is absolute wank, and they've shown again yesterday, as they've done many a times this season, that when we get an important goal, when we get into back into a game, and we get an opportunity to actually get something out of a game, within minutes we throw it. We absolutely throw it. And yeah, I just at that point I was like, I just don't see us getting another chance. But again, one of the positives that people will take from it is we didn't give up. We picked our heads up. We went again. What would have been a chance for us to drop our heads and sulk and throw the towel in, but they didn't. They kept going. They were pushing. They were trying to create chances, albeit we didn't really create much after that. Dom had the chance early on in the game, and I forgot to mention where we put him through with a good ball, and he took far too long to try and get a shot away, and by that time he was tackled. But we were trying to get forward. We were trying to create chances. In doing that, obviously, naturally, West Ham hit us a couple of times on the counter-attack. One of those times, Michael Keane throws a silly challenge in, gets a second yellow, a red card, and that then was sort of, right, okay, it's done now. We're not going to get anything out of this, because not only have we got 10 men, we're away from home, and that was the point where the players, I think, just thought, shit, forget it. And there was a little bit of push, there was a little bit of effort, there was a little bit of, I suppose, desire come the end of the game, but not much. The sending off, the conceding the second goal just killed us completely. And then, as I said, little situations like playing a short corner when you've got 10 minutes to go to get a crucial goal, to get what would be a really, really important point, and effectively giving West Ham an opportunity to attack again. It's unforgivable. Those situations are unforgivable. Richarlison getting volleyed in the head by Aaron Cresswell and it not even being looked at by VAR is just showing of the complete and utter bias that the FA and the Premier League are, and the complete and utter scum that the FA and the Premier League are. But it wouldn't have mattered, because again, I'm not going to sit here and blame the referees. I'm not going to sit here and say that would have changed the game, because it wouldn't have. The City game, absolutely. But this one, it was a blatant red card. It was the most blatant red card you'll see all season, and it wasn't given. And would it have made the difference? Maybe, maybe not. But it should have been given as a red card, because this is meant to be fair, and this isn't fair. I watched the highlights of WrestleMania earlier today, which was on yesterday and Saturday, and WrestleMania and the WWE is less scripted than the Premier League at the moment. And bearing in mind, it took 15 minutes for Stone Cold Steve Austin to perform a stunner on Vince McMahon because he kept falling over. And yet that's still more believable than believing that this league is officiated fairly. But it wasn't given. As I said, we had a couple of half chances, and then the final whistle's blown and it's game over, and it's another defeat. And whilst, yes, there's slight positives to take from it, those positives mean nothing if we don't implement them on Wednesday. The game's done now. The biggest positive I'd say to take out of this game is let's forget it. It's done now. It's out the way. We didn't really expect to take anything from it anyway. West Ham are a good side. They work hard. They manage really well by David Moyes. We should have got him back when we had the chance a couple of years ago. We probably should have got him back in the summer as well. I think we could have got him back had we have tempted him, but we didn't. We went with Rafael Benitez instead. But it's done now, and we move on. We put it behind us, and let's be honest, the most important game, and it was the most important game before 2 o'clock yesterday, and it was the most important game at 4 o'clock when that West Ham game was over, is Burnley on Wednesday. And as I said, we absolutely can't afford to lose that game. We can't afford to lose it. We need to win it for me to be able to sit here and say that's a weight lifted off our shoulders. But we absolutely can't afford to lose it. And that is what is worrying. That's what's worrying. Is that pressure and that pressure of not being able to afford to lose this one. Will the players be able to deal with that? Away from home. At Goodison, I'd say I think we'll be okay because the crowd will get behind it and we know the players react when the crowd are behind it. Away from home, I don't know. Spotless minds as Burnley are going to really fancy their chances. Both teams need a win. Do Burnley want it more? Well, that might be what it comes down to. Who wants it more? I love Scouse humour, says Vase of Flowers. We almost hit the rock bottom, says Glenn. Yeah. And I guess part of the problem with WWE scripting is the league is joggers and some of our crew could qualify as jobbers. Yeah, that is hilarious. Cam wrestling as if, mate. It is exactly like wrestling. It's exactly like wrestling. It's a nonsense decision. I love Scouse humour, says Vase of Flowers. I wasn't even trying to be funny. I literally feel that way. But yeah, this now makes Wednesday absolutely monumental. Biggest game of the season so far by a mile. And potentially season defining. And that's why Sky Sports have decided to put it on television. It wasn't on television last week. And all of a sudden, a couple of days ago, they decide to put it on the television because they knew how important this game is. And I look at it and I think I don't even want to think about it because the anxiety that this has given me 2 days before it is, considering we're playing Burnley away at Turf Moor, is just it's terrifying. It's terrifying. But yeah. We'll wait and see, I suppose. We'll wait and see what happens. Anyway, look, we are going to finish it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Massive thank you to everybody for watching the live comments. I really do appreciate it. If you watch the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. We'll be back tomorrow with the preview to that game against Burnley, so don't forget to join us for that one. And yeah, it's do or die, isn't it, really, on Wednesday? Do these players have enough? Do these players have what it takes to put that performance in to get a result? I don't know. We haven't taken anything away from home since December. Am I confident we'll take anything on Wednesday? Absolutely not. So I think we've taken 11 points in like 4 months or something, and we've now got to take 11 points out of 10 games. We'll wait and see. Anyway, look, big thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, please hit that like button. It does only take a second if you're new to the channel. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. Take care, lads, says Vase of Flowers. Thank you. Anthony says the mentality is not good enough on the money they're on. I'm working class and will be sacked if I perform like that week in, week out. I want these to go down. Exactly, we'd all be sacked if we perform like that. See you about the toffee, says Eugene. Big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.